record right from the start. Let me just double check to see that that is recording. Yes, it is. Students, you need to do today's work. You're going to need to use the CSS tutorial, and a little bit different than what we did last time. What I want you to do is I want you to have a look at what I'm going to show you here and work on that. Now, what you did last time is you just worked through some of these examples um, that are here. You do the little try it yourself thing. You can see the code here, and you can see the result here. And maybe you could change the code a little bit to uh, to indicate that you actually did touch it. And then you can see that, and then you can take an image of it. That's what we did. That was just I just wanted you to see the code and see the result. There wasn't really too much in that, and I think we've sort of taken that to its logical conclusion. But having said that, I don't want you to just not do that anymore. What I want you to do is go through those examples. As so if you get to introduction, you got some examples there and etc. So you can go and try all those examples. I'm asking you, I think this time to look as far as padding, introduction, syntax, selectors, how to, colors. Go and have a look down to as far as padding. But what I want you to, so just work on those on your own, but I'm not going to ask you to sort of submit that on D2L. And I'm not going to go through it because you just, what I mean, it's there for you, right? Wow, I'm not sure that I add much value to it. But if you go back to the home and scroll down, you'll find that there is this button, which is CSS exercises, and it's a little bit more real. What I mean is you actually have to write some code to make this work. And so that's what I want you to sort of look at. So if you've gone through the exercises before, gone through the exercises, so do the exercises, but without submitting them, just go through and just to get your mind around what it is that you can do. Then if you go to yeah, sorry, then you go to these exercises that we get from the home, which I've just done there. Go down to there, start the CSS exercises, and you'll see that it's a little bit different. Let's just have a look. So for example, it gives you something like this, and then it just gives you some instructions. Can you please change the color of all the P elements to red? Oh, so it's not going to give you the answer. You have to figure it out yourself. Oh, but it does give you a hint. Now, at this point, if you didn't know what to do, what you should do is go back to the tutorial things, the examples, and have a look, and you might find something in the example. If you do know how to do it, well, then that's good. You can just do it. So, for example, here it talks about an element. Elements are described in the notes above. So if you went through the examples and read it carefully, you'd see what an element is. By the way, anything that's inside these chevron things, greater than and less than size, those are all elements. So you have heads, or sorry, not those are not elements. Stuff inside your body are elements. So your H1, your P, those are elements in your HTML, and you can work with them. Actually, body too. Yeah, anything inside the body, you can work with it. And so what you do is you need a selector for them. And so, for example, for this thing here, there's our element between those two tags. The selector that we'd use for it would be H1. And so we could go here, we could just say H1. Notice we're doing it without the greater than and less than signs, but then you can do something about it, right? You could say, okay, so for H1, I want the color to be blue. And it changes the color to blue, but only for the heading. But it's saying, well, I didn't. Okay. We can see that that worked, but it's saying, hey, wait a minute. You haven't done what you were supposed to do. You're supposed to make everything red. Yeah, okay. All right. All right. So to make all of the paragraphs red, you'd say P is color and red. then I checked the code and now it's okay. Now I'm all right. Now I'm correct. I added some extra because I did the heading, but that's okay. The thing is that I did make all the paragraphs red, and so I have met the thing that I'm supposed to do. Now this is CSS. There's three ways of doing CSS. And as again, if you went through the examples and read the stuff in the tutorial, you'd know all this. So you do take your time. You don't need to dive straight into these exercises yet. You can go through the tutorial first. So let me just sort of go back if I can get back. So completed for, let's see. Yeah, all right. So yeah, I think I can close the exercises there. Yeah, that's right. So it opens them in a new window. Oh, there we go. That's interesting. So oops, maybe I shouldn't have closed that window. Yeah. So if I go back to the tutorial, remember you can read all of these things when you're sure that you know what you're doing. You can go to the next one and just sort of read down. These ones you don't need to submit. When you've got as far as padding, having read all of these things and sort of played with the exercises as much as you can there, then you'll go back to the home and go down and do the exercise button. Now, what I wanted you to do with the exercises, let's see what we've got, how many exercises here we have. So our CSS exercises, we've got a few. If you start that, you can see a list of what they are. There's 4 exercises for selectors. There's 4 exercises for how to. I'm not going to ask you to do too much, but if you could get down as far as padding. So we're going as far as padding. And to get to padding, first you should, as I sort of mentioned, first you should do the tutorial. All right. As far as padding, right? And then once you've done that, then you should go ahead and do the exercises as far as padding. And it's the exercises that you should be submitting. And you'll submit it kind of as we did. How many exercises are there? So it looks like if we go back and have a look at those exercises, it looks like there's 4 exercises for selectors. There's 4 exercises for how to. There's 5 exercises for background, 4 for border, 4 for margin, and 3 for padding. Is that too many? It's quite a lot, isn't it? Let's make it a little less. Let's just go as far as border. Okay, so you don't have to do too many. All right, so we won't go as far as padding. We'll just go as far as border for today. We'll pick up the others next lesson or something. Is that all right?
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you,
it
sir.
could be a lot. Is that all right? I cut it back a bit. So that would be CSS. There's 4. How to, there's 4, so that's 8. Um, Background, there's 5, so that's 13. And border, there's 4, so that's 17. Is that too many? Hmm. So what do you submit? So for example, we're on is this our first exercise? Go to the selectors exercise, exercise 1. So what it's saying is we have to turn everything to red. What you would submit is kind of like what we showed before. I want to turn all the P's to red. So how we do it is we must be inside the style tags. Now remember, there's 3 different ways of doing CSS styling. We have what we call internal styling. That's what this is. We have external styling where we write a CSS file. You can copy the code and put it into a editor if you wanted, or you could just take an image of this because you just need to do a little bit of editing, right? So this one is to make all of those things red. And that's what I would get you to submit for that first exercise. Take a snip of that. Um, and put that into a Word document and say this is exercise 1 of blah, blah. Now I've just, yeah, there's our, I don't want to lose my list of who came. So let me get that back again. New. That's who came. All right, so I've done one for you. Let's go ahead and do another few together just for fun, right? All right, so in this one, we come across, and if you went through and did the practices first, you'd see this, but we have these ways of working with selectors. You can have selectors for individual elements, or you can use ID, you can use classes, and we had quite a discussion in the previous class about what's the difference between an ID and a class. And you'll see that as you go through exercises 2 and 3 and 4, it will show you that. But an ID can only be used for one element, whereas a class can be used for multiple elements. And well, yeah, well, let's do this one here. We want this paragraph, we're going to style only this paragraph, the paragraph para 1, and we're going to make it red. And the other ones we're not going to. So when we do a thing that starts with an ID, we use a hash. Hash, and then the name of the, so this is para 1. And then we just put the style in there. And again,
So why did they use the hashtag? We never used it before
that's for
in
an
the
ID.
styling.
We use that for an ID. Maybe because you never declared
I
a,
did. And the
okay.
CSS when we were making the IDs so we can make like certain things uh
Did you
in a
style
certain
them?
way.
Did you style them?
Yeah, in
And it
CSS.
worked?
Yeah, but without the hashtag.
Yeah, well, we should use the hashtag. The other way you can do it was, I've never sort of seen it without a hashtag. This is working. The ID there, as we've said, para 1. We've said here para 1 is going to be red, and you can see it's red. So I'm not sure if you're sort of mistaken on that, because this is the only way I've ever seen that to work. And we see this, we're able to change it here. Now let's try without the hash. Maybe it does work. Let's see. Is that what you're saying? That even say you can set the ID and then style it without? Yeah, it doesn't do anything. So put the hash back on, and the styling works. Green doesn't look very, I should have done that, something a bit brighter than that. Um, yeah, so go back to red because it's, again, I'll take off the hash and it doesn't do anything. But I put the hash back on and yeah, changes it. So I'm not sure what you did, but that's what I know. That's what works. Okay, so that's using the hash, and we see that it only affected the one element that hash was assigned to. That's better example of that, I think, is an example 4, right? What is it saying? Oh, no. That sample 4 is all of a certain type of element. So with this one, what we got here is we've got use of a class. Now notice that there's 3 paragraphs here. What we're going to do is we're going to style 2 of the paragraphs in a certain way. Oh my gosh. I don't think that I wanted that. All right. We're going to style 2 of the paragraphs in a certain way, and one of the paragraphs we're not going to change. And so how we do that is we use a class. Now class kind of looks like an ID, but when we reference it, we don't use the hash, we use a dot. Dot is going to reference a class. So if I go dot color text, then I can put my color there. Let's say we're using red because it's the easiest one to see. Color red. And you see that these 2 change, but this one doesn't. All right, well, let's say, let's put another paragraph in here and call this our blue paragraph. Now I should just say some words. So you don't think that there's the blue here doesn't have any significance. So I'll just put some words, and what I will do is I will make that equal blue words. So some words will come out blue if I edit it here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the hash blue words.
Sir, I think so. I was talking about the class
Could be.
when I told you like we were doing it without the hashtag.
Yeah, you would have been using a dot. Yeah. So you were doing it like this. Quite possible. You could use a class that way. And it looks kind of similar, doesn't it? Sorry, why am I? Sorry. And so watch this as it changes. So you see some words is blue. This paragraph is not. Now let's do something and style all the paragraphs, right? Maybe not color. So let's style all the paragraphs and make them bold or something. Font weight. I think we can say font weight. It's not giving me much help with this, right? Usually, if I was in an editor like um, uh, Visual Studio Code, it would make sure that I spelled this right because I'm not sure that I have. But I think that we can do font weight bold. Now, if this works, then all 4 paragraphs will be bold. Yes, so it did work. So did you see that change? Um, if I take that back, and how I can take that back would be, let's say, I put well, I'll take that off. And so now they're not bolded because I removed um, the selector, but I put the selector back and you'll see them go bolded. So all of the paragraphs are going to be selected by the P. Only the ones that are called color text are selected and become red. Only these become red. Only the one with the blue words becomes blue, but all of them are bolded. And I hope if you really need to look at that and think about it a bit, I think. But that's how we use our selectors. And the next exercise, exercise 4, makes that more obvious, I think, because we've got 2 things that we want to change. We want to change the paragraphs and the one headings. Got a few chats going on there, right? Snapshots. Yeah, snapshots is fine. Just like this, you don't need to put it in a world. Yeah, well, you can take the snapshot and put it in a Word file, or you could take the code, copy the code, and put it into a something like Visual Studio Code, and then run it in a browser. That would work. Um, Either of those is fine. Okay, so if we wanted to make all the paragraphs a certain way and all the elements a certain way, sorry, all of the headings a certain way, you'd do it here, right? So that just putting a P like that with a comma and an H1 is saying that all of the paragraphs and all of the heading ones are going to be styled in the same way. And so we're styling 2 different kinds of elements together. Uh, And so, but notice that H2 is not styled that way. Only H1 and P are styled that way. And so we have a way of selecting all of one kind of thing. Now, here's something a little tricky. Watch this. Actually, yeah, I'm going to go here in the style and I'm going to say, okay, so the body, because we have a body tag, I'm going to make the color of the body blue. So what's going to happen? All right, so it only made H2 blue. Why didn't the other ones become blue? I don't know. Maybe somebody could think about that and come up with a response. It's well, if you haven't thought of it, um, you won't lose marks based on putting it in a separate page. That's okay. Uh, yeah, H2 isn't included in the CSS, but it's turned blue. So how's that? Well, H2 is part of the body, and the whole body is turned blue. If I take this out and run it again, everything is blue. Then I put this back in, and now some stuff is blue and some stuff isn't. Well, let's take this out again. Run it. Everything's blue. Well, it doesn't matter. Um, then I'm going to put this stuff here. I put this stuff above, and then afterwards that. What's going to happen? Well, there we go. Isn't that interesting? The one below didn't change it. I thought it would. Okay. But if I change this, so everything except the stuff that's been styled there is going to be changed to blue. It's all kind of fun. So those are the things that I want you to sort of look at. You've got all the, I've already just gone through all the exercises for the selectors, so that shouldn't be too hard for you. The how-to one, now that maybe is a little trickier, because with the how-to one, it wants you to do the external style sheet. With an external style sheet, you're going to have link tags in the head. Okay, so I don't know if you can remember that. If not, you're going to have to kind of look it up somewhere, I suppose. But basically, in the link tag, you're going to have to say that you're going to have to use a href. With href, you say, what is the name of the file and where do you find it? The name of the file is mystyle.css. You don't need to say where to find it. We'll just assume that it's in the same folder. And then you're going to need to use the rel and then to say that it's a style sheet. And if you can't remember, you just Google it, right? Just go to Google. You can put it in thing and you can do a link in CSS. I think that would probably be enough, right? Just do like that. And so there it is, just like that, right? There it is, boom. Kind of all you'd have to do to make it work for the one you're doing is change styles to my styles, and it's just about exactly the same thing. So as I said, Google's your friend. That'll help you, and it even came up with a nice uh, W3Schools answer to that. So that's what you want to do here. So the difference between an external and an internal CSS. This one where we're using the link, you then create a new file, which is a new CSS file, and that will that holds your data. Sorry, that holds all your CSS. And what do we got here in exercise 2? Background color. Yeah, there is you need to put a style in the head, yeah, because this is internal. Background, you can go and have a look back in the tutorial. You'll see that there's a background command that you can use. I'm not going to go through all of those because I'm going to sort of leave that with you. I want you to go as far as a border only. And yeah, I hope that works for you. Any questions on what it is that I'm going to ask you to do, etc.? Susanna thinks it's easy. I'm glad that. Awesome. Any other sort of comments on that? Sarah was going to say something or not. uh, Maui thinks it's easy. Okay, so a lot of people already submitted work from the previous one. Some of you didn't. And yeah, the stuff I saw was pretty good. So I think we're ready to sort of do this stuff. Some of you will realize that we're still doing stuff that we we'd already covered in CP1000. So I hope that's not too much trouble. I'm going to stop recording for